Okay, so we are going to be covering production hardening, which is more or less just making your systems resilient, reliable, adding observability, and in this case, adding some billing monitors or billing limits. And a lot of this is going to be done through, or can be done through the AWS console, but we'll be doing it through the terminal and then reviewing in the console. You've essentially been going over a lot of Sagemaker these past few weeks, a lot of machine learning algorithms. You've deployed a few different ones. You've used XGBoost, yesterday factorization, random cut forest a few weeks ago, blazing text, and you even created the fast API endpoints to test each of these. Now, just having the endpoints alone and the models deployed alone isn't enough, right? Because if we think about like the DevOps lifecycle, it goes beyond just development. It also includes the maintenance and the operating operation of your code, basically. And in this case, your SageMaker models. So we want to add observability, and we're going to do that with a CloudWatch dashboard. And we'll do it in a very simple, straightforward fashion right now. We'll just be using the automatic dashboard creation, but you could also create custom dashboards, which will have some additional costs. Um, what we would be tracking will be things like invocation counts over time, like the number of times the endpoint has been hit, the latency of that model, which is the time the container is processing a request, and any errors that you might be getting, either client or server side. It even includes model setup time, which is your start duration. And this information is essentially critical for not just fine-tuning your model, but ensuring that it performs to standards. Machine learning costs do get pretty high, especially as you scale your instance type to support more demanding models and usage. So definitely something that you'll want to keep an eye on, especially if you're working on this, let's say in your own accounts, just for continuous learning, or if you happen to land in a smaller team that might not have this set up. I know Troy said he's not here today, but if he sees this recording, this is pretty much very relevant to what he does. Um, oh, by the way, has he shown you his assessment three yet? I told him to share it with the class.
He talked about it. I don't know if he's actually showed it off that I remember.
Okay, I'm gonna keep bugging him until he shows it. It's pretty cool. So yes, in addition to having observability on the operation of your endpoints, we also want to consider cost governance and have observability on our spending. Hence, hence us going over Bloodhound V2 later today after all of this. Okay, so then we have some failure resilience, which we can do with some Python code, and we can expand on the Fast API code that you guys built on Tuesday. We'll want to look at various failure types and account for them. So I guess there are two that you two, or I guess you could categorize these into two um, categories, right? Transient versus permanent failures. Transients are blips essentially in your logic, and you will want to treat these differently than you would for permanent failures. Permanent failures are potentially, well, permanent, so more, not necessarily more important. Like not the best word to use. Urgent, critical, urgent, and so that's probably a case where if you were in a situation in an organization that has established policies on incident management, that would be a case where you would very likely want to call an incident. Whereas for temporary blips, you'd probably want to do some deeper investigations first. Have you all heard of service level management and have we talked about it at all? Service level management is a site reliability engineering practice that essentially aims to standardize how the entire organization measures objectives, defines objectives, and how they will act when those objectives are not met or when agreements are breached. It's, I don't know, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around at first, I guess. At least that's the general consensus Kim and I get sometimes, a lot of resistance. But when implemented correctly, it can be very effective. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. And it's really more or less in a nutshell, just setting up observability, just setting up like a run book or a playbook or a plan on what to do when things are breached. And when you have, let's say, services like Datadog, they actually have built-in features for things like service level management. Let's see. Let's see what Datadog has to say about it. So, right, you can think about, well, not think about it. Typically, service level management is discussed through three different key terminologies, and that would be your SLI, your SLO, and your SLA. The indicator is the metric by which you measure the performance of any part of your service, any service in your bigger system, right? So that might be things like latency, that might be things like error rate, that might be things like success rate. And with these metrics, you're essentially establishing a foundation, a basis for which to tangibly say, we are going to meet this goal. Because without that metric, the goal might be ambiguous. And if the goal is ambiguous, then the agreement probably is ambiguous as well. How can you communicate to stakeholders that you have thought through different scenarios, that you have prepared for these potential failures, transient failures, etc., if you don't have a system that you're following and you don't have a way to talk about that system? So again, in a nutshell, it's more or less just formalizing the behavior that you define around. observability and monitoring. So, right, in some services like Datadog, it's built in, like there is support for it from the get-go. Datadog, especially being a pretty popular tool, uh, right, has an entire dashboard dedicated to this, and it gets pretty heavy. So we're not going to like dive too deep into things like burn rates and whatnot, but more or less, the takeaway here is that there is like I guess I can't it can't be overstated how fundamentally critical and important observability is, how budgeting is. It's just without these kind of things, like your costs can skyrocket. Your organization can bleed money during an incident. Like you have a failure, you have no idea how to track it. You'll be bleeding money every second that your entire application is down, right? So these are not these are not like the sexiest things regarding development or operations, but they're highly crucial. Okay, so back to various um, approaches towards failure resilience. We, let's see, let me actually take a look real quick at the lab. I don't know if we go deep enough into these various implementations. Let's see. There's some error handling, there's some integration. Yeah. Okay, there's a call endpoint with retry. So there's some retry methods. This one is handling cold starts. I've been using what is it called? A Jupyter notebook, and I don't think I have a complete match to everything inside of the lab. And also, it looks like I'm pretty sure I did update this. Let's see. Oh, snap, 4 days ago. Am I looking the wrong thing? Yeah, I'm looking the wrong thing. Whoops. Okay. So there was some retry logic that you guys did on Tuesday, so that's good. Um, was that covered in the lecture, by any chance?
Like the exponential back off and the jitter.
Yeah.
Yes, briefly.
Okay. Okay.
And we also talked about exponential back off way earlier in the cohort as well, if I remember.
Way earlier. How much earlier?
Couldn't tell you. I just remember you guys explaining it to us before.
Okay.
Jitter was new to me though, but it makes sense.
Mhm. All right. I wonder why that's okay. I'll worry about that later. I guess this really should be more of a review, or at least this part should be okay. And that's really it. We will be adding some tags, some dashboards, etc. So let's dive in. You're gonna want to you're gonna want to get your environment set up. You don't have to get it set up the way that I'm doing it right now, which is through a notebook. Um, just doing it that way myself for convenience. And if you have your endpoint set up, go ahead and choose one to use. Let's see. Where is my, there we go. Okay, got my environment set up and do this. Let me do that. All right, so like usual, you're gonna make a virtual environment, a new folder, and then you're gonna install some dependencies. In this case, we're gonna install, you don't actually need IPy kernel. That's only if you want to throw into a notebook, just like I'm doing. But you'll want Bodo 3, you'll want SageMaker, you'll want Fast API, Unicorn, and Pydantic. So get that set up, and from there you can verify your environment. Here we're running some print statements to ensure that these packages are installed. And from here we are going to configure our AWS region and endpoint name. We have our role that we've been using for these past few weeks. I'm using the same lab bucket that I created a few weeks ago. Let's see. And we are going to see what endpoints we have available. We have this from Thursday. I think all of my endpoints are gone as they should be. Let's see. I was trying to get this to work. I don't think it works. But what this does, and I think it should be inside of your lab as well. So if it doesn't work and you felt inclined, you could go back to it later and try to dabble around with it. Um, it basically takes a lot of what we already did and it was fed through Claude, who was supposed to make it work really fast, but it hasn't been tested very thoroughly. I guess there's like some really strange things. Like this endpoint name is, I'm just noticing now, like baked in. Okay. I might actually go back and tinker around with this later, but pretty sure it doesn't work. I'm pretty sure it's going to error out. Let's try it anyway. And let's take a look at those errors.
In the lab, there is an AWS CLI command to list all the training jobs. So
Hmm.
instead of having to retrain, you can just redeploy based on that trained model. And there's a bunch of them that are completed to choose from.
Okay. You're talking about like today's lab?
I hope so. It's so there were two options in the lab. It's you can either what you're doing right now, which was the second step, you could deploy an XG boost endpoint from scratch, or right above that, check if you still have completed training jobs from previous model trainings. So that's the active endpoints, the one you were just showing, the FM-recommended-KH. I assume that's Kathleen's endpoint. Then duh, 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 duh. Okay, yeah, your Jupyter notebook is slightly different from the lab that I'm looking at on
Mm,
the class repo.
okay, I see.
Basically, instead of deploying it from scratch, yeah, right there, that's it.
Nice.
That way you can see all the currently existing training jobs instead of training from scratch.
Nice. Okay, cool. All right, I forgot to, yeah, probably should have. Oh, look, it's your Pokemon ones. I probably should have been a little more thorough comparing
Do,
these.
do those cost money?
What, the endpoints?
No, not they're not the endpoints, they're just like the training job.
Oh, no.
Okay. Because that'd be a lot of endpoints to be up if it was costing, or if we did that.
Have we been regularly destroying the endpoints like at the end of class? We have, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
At the end of all of them so far, it's, hey, destroy it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so this is actually running, interestingly enough. I thought it was broken. At least it was last night. But let's let that run. For our metric queries, we can query endpoint metrics directly. Let's see, what did we set? Have we set endpoint name yet? I think we did. Oh wait, no, I don't think I did actually. I think let's go back here. So right, if we go straight to deployment, which means let's collapse this. Oh, there's no section on that.
W Won't the endpoint be outputted once the currently running step is done?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
C-
I was I don't think I actually did I run this? I don't remember running this. I think I did. So what is it using? Or it creates it in the end. Right, no, or I should say it's using this.
Yeah, it's the script look like that's what it's going to do. It's going to call it XGBoost dash credit card dash endpoint dash timestamp.
Okay.
And it should print it if it runs properly. There's
Hmm.
a little print statement at the end.
So let's yeah, let that run. In the meantime, I am gonna just run this, but it's showing pending. It should just be adding a variable name. It shouldn't take there we go. Get the check mark. Let's oh, there we go. There's our failure. Is it because keyboard interrupt? Okay.
Do you think clicking the cell above the play button interrupted it?
Probably. Yeah, because it was queued at first and then I impatiently mashed it. So I don't know, let's just start that over again. Actually, no, let's not do that because that might take a while. Let's just go with Kathleen's endpoint because really we're just trying to spin up dashboard to look at, right? So let's do this. This is going to give us some warning. Basically, we'll just want to change that date time. If we execute this, we'll be able to see that this endpoint has not been hit in the last hour. Uh, right, let's back up. So our metric queries, we are okay. I changed this up so much. There was like originally was telling you to manually create a dashboard using JSON, which I thought was kind of jank. So I changed to this. But let's look at AWS and let's go to CloudWatch dashboard and I type this morning TUS East 1. Let's go to where was it? Automatic dashboards, Sagemaker. Right. So we can just use a automatic dashboard instead of creating one to view all of the SageMaker endpoints that we have. Um, let's see. Okay, so here we have the endpoint that we created. So it's been invoked once, and that was when we just ran this. Let's see, notification last hour. Okay, that's actually, I don't know why they're showing different results. So this is saying that this was invoked once, and then this is saying that it wasn't. Okay, so we are tracking the implications. Oh, this is the sum of the implications, but right, this is sum as well. Period is last hour. I'm not seeing it. Nothing's popping out at me right now. At least nothing obvious as to why these are showing different results. Am I in the right region? Maybe I'm in the right region. Okay, US East 1 set there. Am I setting that anywhere else? Okay, so I am intentionally setting up US East 1. Not sure why this is getting that result. Maybe we'll go back to that later. No latency either, which matches what we have here at least. Um, but yes, more or less, you have a few different ways of tracking or trying to monitor your endpoints, and that's through your dashboard or through some CLI commands. Let's create an alarm, and we're going to do that just using a put metric alarm. We'll be passing all of these variables in, and let's go ahead and make that. Made an alarm. We should be able to see that here as well. Go back to, whoops, our alarms. Then we see we have our new SageMaker XG Boost alarm. And let's verify that alarm state. Okay, looks like it's in a good period, or sorry, good state right now, and the period is the last hour. And let's also create a budget. So we'll be using, for this, we'll be using Bodo. We'll be setting some basic parameters, and let's actually go over the budgets real quick. Okay, cool. I wanted to make sure that I deleted the one from before. All right, so we're going to make a budget called SageMaker the budget, set budget amounts, and let's go ahead and run that. If we verify here, it should show. And if we refresh here, oh, there it is. We can now see our budget. We could see that our budget's pretty high. Oof. Okay. And we can look at that in more detail later on. But this is our spending in past few months. So I really want to go back real quick. We'll go back to this later for the Bloodhound stuff. Retry logic, you guys already covered this. So let's run run past this. Resource tagging, pretty straightforward, more or less. You can add tags, check your existing tags. This is a lot of this, like I said at the start, is pretty straightforward, but run through the lab afterwards, and then the challenge will be to put them together, but as a run book. So you'll be utilizing these various strategies to create a plan, an actionable plan for when things break. Okay, so that's that. Let's see if we can figure out Bloodhound. All right, so this is Chad's legacy. Bloodhound V2, Seek and Destroy, got a really badass AI generated image here with S3 buckets being destroyed. So the idea is we should be able to use commands like seek, or is that actually the current implementation? Let's see. Okay, so the idea is we can seek, we'll be able to whitelist certain resources so that it's not um, destroyed. Basically, the canine will walk past it. Let's see. Right. So we basically can enable and disable it, and it operates through a lambda. So let's see if we can deploy that. Hey, that's the documentation. Actually, no, let's look at this real quick. So these are the commands. Uh, Apparently it's a two-person crew. It's a cyber hound and a bounty hunter. Hound sniffs the AWS sprawl for runaway spend and orphan infrastructure, and the handler pulls a trigger. Good stuff. Let's see. So, right, when we whitelist, it's going to be tagged with this, and apparently there are multiple layers of don't break the account. Default is dry run. We can. What's the difference between simulate and dry run? Exercise apply flow without making any destructive API calls. Okay, I see. Dry run is the plan. It's kind of that's not how I would have named that. Um, let's see. We can then identify our targets and okay, so there's some, I guess, administrative controls here. Okay. how do we deploy this? Oh, cool. Like there's a chart here. Okay, so we have our triggers, and that's going to be either through a schedule or through a manual slash command in Slack. Okay, again, it's a Lambda, so these triggers are going to call Lambda. We have an entry point, a direct invoke. I suppose you could also invoke it from the Lambda itself. And then the core of this is this orchestrator. It loads configuration, it scans, it checks against whitelists, and then it shares results. Okay, pretty straightforward. And then it's going to work with Slack, probably via webhook, and it's going to do its magic. Okay, so this is actually fairly straightforward. And if all we have to do is submit a Lambda, then we can try to deploy that and see if the Slack commands work from there. Okay, so there's local testing. No, I don't think we have to do that. Uh, Probably gonna have to clone this down. Okay, so Terraform will build and zip. Nice. We're using some Terraform. We'll look at that in a sec too. And okay, cool. So it doesn't replace the V1 Lambda at all. So we'll still have the original Bloodhound barking at us in Slack. And then we could test through the CLI. Cool. Okay, so if we go to our what workflows does he have here? He's got a workflow here that runs on a schedule that's going to invoke the Lambda. That's It's pretty cool. And the Terraform is all right, pretty straightforward. So this will create the function. This is the function URL. And looks like we might have to do some Slack configuration, set the request URL for seek and destroy to the output of the Terraform. Okay, cool. Pretty straightforward. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and see, where should I put this? Where do I want to put this? I'll just toss it in here. Or actually, no, this makes more sense. Tools. Clone, Bloodhound. Let's see. Let's go into Bloodhound. Whoops, shoot. I should make that bigger. Let's do our Terraform init. Where's the Terraform stuff? Let's see, how is this nested? Oh, it's inside of infra, but I don't see an infra directory. Oh, he's got a version 2 branch. It's not using main. So let's git switch to version 2 underscore O. Cool. There is infra. And now we can do our Terraform init. And while that's running, next will be to set up slash commands. Have you guys played around with Slack integrations at all, like creating them or even creating simple Slack tools?
I have not.
It's actually pretty straightforward. So could come in handy if your organization uses Slack and looking through the Slack API documentation is pretty, you'll see that it's pretty straightforward. Let's see. So we've initialized. Let's do our Terraform plan just to see. I'm actually curious. I know a few of you guys have already landed some jobs. Do you guys use Slack at work?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. Hey, it's better than Skype, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm still getting used to it.
Okay, so we've got 8 resources to add. Let's go ahead and do Terraform apply. Yes. Snap. Okay. So there's a dependency conflict. I wonder why. Let's see. I don't think. All right, so I might be missing all of this stuff, maybe. Configuration, environment variables, copy the values from your local .env. But this says this is an lambda console, so I don't think that's that. Let's see.
What's the error? Scroll up a little bit
Hmm.
on that error. So conflict is caused by the user requested URL lib equals 2.0.7. Boto core depends on
A greater version or a
a
version that's
lesser version.
yeah, lesser version. Let's see. Where does he have the actual? Where does he have? Oh, there's a requirements. There we go. Okay. So let's see, URL lib 2.07. I just wonder why it's I would fail here if these are the values that he had set himself. That's that's weird. That's very strange to me. So I guess let's see. Let's just go ahead, move version for this. Let's try again. It's complaining about length. Well, it worked. Okay.
So does pip kind of intelligently pick versions based on conflicts and stuff like that?
Right. If you remove like the version requirement,
Yeah, because previously we were forcing it, and now you took that away. So you said, "Hey, we want to install it, but do something smart. Pick a version that satisfies this," and it tries.
exactly, yes.
Okay.
I just I mean I just wonder like I would assume that this is the exact requirements file that Chad used on his machine, but I don't know, maybe he had like a change that he just never pushed and merged. So that could just be it. Let's see if this works. We should have the URL. The next thing is to take the URL, and I think it was to share it in Slack or post it in Slack in your Slack app settings. Oh, I don't even know if I have access to this actually. Let's see, where is Slack? Hmm, I don't think the documentation went over.
Before we try to wire it into Slack, could we hit that endpoint with the proper like curl request to see if the different methods are even working?
But we should probably should be able to. Yeah. Oh, where was it?
Because that's all Slack's going to do, right? You're just going to give it a slash command, and then it's going to turn that into some sort of probably like an HTTP request, sending it to the endpoint,
Hmm.
maybe plus or minus.
Yes, but if Chad had already started wiring this up, I wonder if he's passing in like any params. We could also test through here. Let's see. Let's do this. Is this for V2? Yep, that's for V2. Okay, let's go up. Let's try that again.
It looks like it's trying to send test underscore event.json.
Yeah, there it is. I was in the
Oh,
directory.
it wants it wants to be one directory up, I think, right? Because it's passing
Yeah, I tried that. I was
and it didn't work.
yeah. I tried it
Tools.
from here, and then here it's complaining about the
Oh,
function.
it's a different error.
Yeah, so let's see. This is inside of, let's look at our lambdas. And this says this is trying to run in US West 2. My environment locally is set to US East 1, so
So you think maybe it deployed it to the wrong region based on relative to the expected in the program.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the one that we just deployed right now.
Yeah. US East 1. Yep.
So let's grab that and let's see where the hell is. Oh, there we go. US East, US West 2. Let's change that to US East 1. Oh, now I'm missing my Slackbot token. Right, so these are in the environment variables. Does he want that set inside of, I don't know where to get that Slack token. I don't know if he ever, I might have to ask him for that. I don't know if he ever stored that anywhere. Maybe I'll just have to generate a new token. Oof. This might be a blocker that we can't get past, so we might not be able to test this, unfortunately. I really wanted to test it. Let's see. Let me see if I'll search my messages, see if it's anywhere to be found.
The
Maybe
token is going to the Lambda function call, right? Like we need to pass it as an argument.
through, yeah, I believe so, like through, let's see, asset management
Pulled
or
from the env file
right,
missing.
right.
Why can we look at the Lambda and determine what it wants as far as token goes and just make something up that meets those requirements?
Like make, like generate. Are you saying like to
Yeah,
create like a random Slack token?
sure. How does the Lambda function even know what's a legitimate token?
It would be Slack, or yeah, I guess you're right, right? Because if it's not actually reaching Slack, it would fail when it gets to Slack, but it should still invoke before that, is what you're saying, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, okay. All
I don't
right.
know. I'm just this is how I would do it because I don't know what I'm doing, so I just keep going until something breaks.
All right, let's do it.
But that may be more less trivial than I think it is.
Well, let's see. Can it hurt? I don't think so. So, do we want that? Where do we want that
Because
environment?
so the intended uh behavior is probably because you're doing this through Slack, when you do the slash seek or whatever, all those values are generated and sent along with the request of the Lambda. And then on the way back, Slack checks to make sure that those are the same values, so it does its thing.
Right, but all Slack would be doing is posting the results.
Yes, yes. All the actual business logic is happening outside of Slack. Slack's just kind of like an intermediary, an interface to do all of
Yes.
it.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, to your point, I think it's we could test it without the Slack token because if we don't get Slack, we could just look at the results inside of AWS. So let's see.
Was there an example? Yeah, there's an env.example in the repo.
Okay, cool. So let's copy that. Okay, so that's inside of Bloodhound. Also, why is this Bloodhound with capital B? Are we looking at the same thing here? Bloodhound. Oh, I see. Inside of Bloodhound is Bloodhound with a lowercase b. So that's weird. Do we want? Okay, let's just put the environment variable at the same directory the example is in, and then if it doesn't work there, we'll just move it around. All right, so right, let's just go ahead, skip that, skip that, skip that, skip that. Explicit is what it wants. Okay, let me think real quick. I don't want to accidentally destroy resources I shouldn't be destroying because Francisco's going to yell at me if I destroy his resources again, even though I don't think it was me that destroyed them last time. Let's see.
Yeah, because there's nothing currently whitelisted, right?
Right. And without the Slack thing, I don't think we can whitelist. Or we can because it would just be Bloodhound Keep. So let's go to our. It would be nice if this had like the ability to filter what resources. Okay, cool. And you could hard code which ones to always keep. We could at least try a dry run. Yeah, let's do that so we don't actually destroy anything. So at least we could see it in action.
I I think you don't want to change that to true.
Oh, good catch. Yeah, that naming. Okay, right. I was just thinking like dry run from earlier. I mean, I wouldn't even call that dry run. If it's just generating a plan, then okay. Anyway, so if true apply, Mo can delete all non-whitelisted. That's not what we want. So this should be fine to run. It's just simulating. And cool. Let's save that. Let's see if this works. Oh, crap. Really? Well, actually, no, there's a 200. We got a response. So let's see if. Okay. Looks like we've invoked it. But where does it output the plan?
Those errors. So in the env file, is there a variable called slack underscore bot underscore token?
Oh, we just didn't fill it out. But I don't think these errors matter because, like you were pointing out, it would hit the lambda, and this invoke confirms that. So maybe it's not generating the output text file because of the error. Because that part I don't know how that.
Maybe the Lambda checks to see if they're there. Not, it can't do any validation against them because it's not Slack. But do we have that variable set inside there?
No, I don't think we do. Or it just says replace me. So it's not
Slack
a proper
bot
token.
token. Slack bot. Okay, so there is a value there though. Okay, okay. Now, the Lambda itself, does the code inside the Lambda do any checking of those values?
Let's see. I'm not sure where the code is. Let's see. It's not an infra. So let's look inside. Okay, so it's probably all of this Bloodhound stuff. Where would we start? Let's probably start at app.py. So first we load the environment configuration. We scan for, or that's just listing them. I don't know if that's actually the right order. So during run, we,
Oh, and then one more thing. We didn't have the env file when we deployed this originally, right?
no, we did. I had already copied it.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, you're right. Right, when we,
Would that make a difference in that we, because it looks like it's trying to pull stuff out of the environment, and when it's going to pull because we built it before we added the env file, none of those are going to be there, right? Or am I wrong?
I don't know. It really depends on how he wrote it because if the code is only looking for these values and it's grabbing them from the environment and we're invoking from the local terminal and it's looking for those in the local terminal, then it should be fine.
That's true. Okay.
But yes, now let's see if it's going to fail before it does anything because it's looking for that Slack token. Yeah, this might be a little too much to look through right now. Where's this error message? Okay, let's see. So it validates configuration, which is one of the very first things that app was doing. So anytime, if any of these trigger, it's just going to return errors. And where is this called? Load it there. We check here. If there are any errors, then we return this.
Yeah, that's okay.
I wonder if, and that means the rest of this won't run.
Execute. Yeah, because the return, right? So,
Um, so we could comment this out probably and redeploy.
well, so why are we not why is it basically flagging that Slackbot token is missing? Because I thought we gave it that. It's not a valid token, but it is there, right? In our env.
Well, let's see if it gives like this boilerplate message or if it appends errors based on what errors it validates. Because if it's just like a boilerplate, it sends all of it, then maybe it could be any of these that is throwing it off. I know we definitely didn't manually set this at the very least. So where was the validation? That was over in,
Config.
okay, config, validate. Okay, yeah, it's
So
appending them based on
so if not config.slack.bot token.
Slack channel ID is also missing. Region mode, explicit requires regions to be set. And if we don't have any regions specified, so maybe it isn't reading the env file. So, right, let's try redeploying.
Uh, in what about terraform.tfvars.example? Because is that where if Slack enabled equals true, cool, secret's okay.
You know, I would think that he will have the when we run the Terraform to deploy, it would load the variables from the env into a terraform.tfvars. So, right, like you were suspecting, Nick, I think we need to have the deployment after we have the environment files created locally. So if we redeploy, so let's go back to Terraform, infra.
But okay, so when we're deploying from the infra directory via Terraform, terraform.tfvars.example is not what it's going to source for those values. It's going to it sources them from terraform.tfvars, right? If that's what the main function is built to do. Because there's
Right,
variables which are just setting them up, right?
right.
The variables.tf.
Yeah, and I would assume variables.tf is going to be grabbing these from the .env file.
Let's see.
So this defines the variables.
Yes, like the type and almost like TypeScript does, right? It
Mhm.
does have some defaults though, but it doesn't have all of them. Okay.
Right. So,
Then
and then from here, I'm not sure exactly where the logic would be for it to.
main. I mean, it might take a while, but I would start at main. Oh no, it doesn't have. He's got his modularized significantly. Build function URL IAM lambda local, and there's also a lambda too. Is that a giant comment? No,
Yeah, this is really interesting.
no.
It's here.
One more, the actual lambda.tf, because that's I assume if it was built correctly, this is what's the actual lambda. And their type file name. Ah, okay.
There.
Variable.
The package comes from infra build.tf,
Environment variables are provided via var.lambda_env.
sourced from the Terraform TFRs. So that would still be happening after wherever it grabs the .env vars to generate the Terraform.tfrs.
But there isn't, so it looks like it's looking for a file. It's looking for the variables, but we didn't define them in the infra folder.
No, we didn't. We put them inside of .env. I'm wondering,
And that was done after we originally deployed it,
right,
meaning I think it got deployed without any of the variables. So that's why it's complaining because it doesn't have any of them. That's my thought at least.
right. No, I agree. I just want to see though where exactly it's
The flow, if it pulls from the one directory up.env to populate terraform.tfvars, or if you need to set them in a file called terraform.tfvars. Is
right.
that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Based on the instructions, it sounds like we would just, follow the location that he put the example in. I just don't know how it's pulling that. There it is. Okay, so if we run a Terraform plan, no changes. No changes with the .env file inside of infra either, so right. v2 loads.env automatically for local runs. I see. In AWS Lambda, set these in the Lambda environment variables section instead. Okay. Okay. So the .env is this must be why he has the TFVars, for example. They're we assume that they were linked somehow and they're not. So let's just go ahead, create TFRs, select enabled true, replace me. Let's leave all of that alone. What we really want to make sure is that this doesn't destroy anything. So what were those values? This doesn't have the dry run or anything.
Was the dry run based on an environment variable or was it based on a slash command?
I thought it was an environment variable. Because that was, yeah, apply changes, turn on simulate. So maybe those are only for the local command and well, let's see. If we really just want to see if it runs, so let's maybe set this to 2026-12. Theory shouldn't destroy anything. Let's find out. Failed to get the shared config profile inside of line 8 of providers. Oh, that's probably inside of the variables then. Let's know what I'm supposed to use there. So let's just get rid of that. Okay, and let's apply.
So now this will redeploy the infrastructure, including that Lambda function, but this time we're actually going to give it variables because it has a terraform.tf to reference.
Correct.
Okay.
Cool. So now we can try to invoke this using that AWS Lambda invoke. And we had to do this inside of what directory? Bloodhound, I think. Or no, one directory up or
It was, what's the command again? Was it one directory, the whatever directory has tools inside of it. Is that right?
yeah, yeah. So it wasn't this then. Oh yeah, okay. It's just the root. All right. So let's do this. Well, it's hanging, so or it appears that error message the request of the Slack API failed. Invalid auth, Slack
So,
API.
so maybe it is doing something talking to Slack. Error message the request to the Slack API. Yeah, it looks like it did some sort of Slack API attempt, and obviously our fake uh, authorization credentials were no good.
Yeah. Let's see though. Let's see if it probably will still show the invoke. Yep. Okay, so we have one from earlier and one from now. And that's the response. I don't think we're, whoops, output.txt. Okay. So, well, we're hitting it. We're not getting any very useful logs or outputs, but at least we're hitting it.
Well, and I guess that makes sense because wouldn't it be a vulnerability if you could hit the Lambda function with uh, bad authorization? Because then anyone could do it if they knew the URL, right?
Right.
Versus the way he has it set up, it probably check. So you hit the URL with his payload, it checks the Slack API to verify that that was a valid, valid credentials, valid token, whatever. And if it's not, then it stops processing. So you can't use the Lambda to do bad stuff without authorization.
Right. But we also talked about maybe um, commenting this out. So let's see if that makes a difference.
That's valid config. Great client. I'd imagine we would need to go through the Lambda function, actual functionality, and comment out the section where it actually calls the Slack API or something like that. That way it ignores that section
Hmm.
and runs its uh, functionality.
So let's see. Here it creates a client, and if Slack's enabled, then it calls a Slack notifier. Down here, again, it checks for Slack. Slack is just that configuration. Uh, so everything here so far, yeah, let's try moving that as well. And I don't know if that's going to be enough, but if everything comes from app.py and we disable that here, it's going to be set to none for the rest of the code. Okay. Still debating whether or not this is a good idea. Because if it does invoke, will it
And it
destroy things?
destroys stuff. Yeah.
Well, because the one thing that I did change in the variables was the cohort date, but we never actually found anywhere in the code how exactly that's being used or read.
Yeah, if that's a filter that prevents everything before it from being deleted, then you'd be fine, but we don't know that for a fact.
Exactly. I'm just guessing. I'm just assuming. So, well, we've gotten this far. So let's see if we could find that anywhere. I don't know if, well, I don't know what I'm searching the wrong thing. I should be searching this, I think. Oh, this budget snapshot only. Yeah, so it probably would have destroyed everything if this is only related to the budget snapshots. All right, let's see. I think the responsible thing to do right now would be to call it here. And I'm gonna double check with Chad just on a few things, just to make sure I don't destroy stuff unintentionally. But we got this far. We have a tool that will set up some monitoring, some budgets, just like we saw in today's lesson, doing it all manually through the CLI. Uh, right. And wherever you land, as if you are in a DevOps role, or even if you are just in an SE role, you could potentially provide a lot of value to your team by identifying your pain points as a team and adapting resolutions or tools that could help with that through Slack and AWS. Okay, we've been here for a little over an hour. We need to take a break, run through the rest of the lab, run through the challenge. Again, it's about creating a playbook or a run book um, for when things go wrong. And this afternoon, we will pivot into Kubernetes. So we will install Minikube. We will write some very basic manifests and we'll run some kube control commands to spin up some pods. Cool. So let's go ahead. I'm going to open up breakout rooms, take a 15-minute break, 20-minute, whatever, and let's meet back here at 1 o'clock. Okay.